Hello again, Steve here with a few comments on what I think we can learn from Milo Yiannopoulos. As you may have noticed, Milo is great at getting in the news, and he was in the news again recently about something to do with walking into a den of socialists somewhere in New York and getting heckled to the point where he had to leave, I guess, because they wanted no Nazis in the place, apparently. Um, well, I first heard of Milo Yiannopoulos probably back in late 2015, certainly early 2016. Somebody who I knew mentioned him, and I began to became aware of some of his work that he was doing. And I actually went to an event that he was at, and I think this was the first stop of his Dangerous Faggot tour back in 2016, and I was the second person to interview him. Actually, I'll try to put the link down below of a video I did. It was a very, very brief interview I did with Milo Yiannopoulos back in 2016. And boy, when I saw him speak, and seen him before, and especially recently in some of his events, there are things we can learn from Milo Yiannopoulos, I think, about getting a message out there in some way. One of the and I can just list a few and have a few comments on them. One of the things that he is, certainly he's over the top, right? He's definitely outside the Overton window in a lot of ways, verbally and in the things the Overton window and quotes sometimes. He's just as crude as hell, for example. He doesn't seem to hold back when especially under certain situations. And I agree with Styx Hexenhammer, who talks about how he thinks that, Milo, most of what he's doing is just getting attention. It's a strategy to get attention. So Milo doesn't, or Styx doesn't think much of him, although Milo wears the leather jacket with no shirt on. So, he's got his point there too. And I think there's things we can learn from this. If we have a really important message to get out there, sometimes, like they say with people who learn how to dress better. The people who do this, what is it, fashion consultants or whatever, they say for whatever it is you're doing, if you're trying to get noticed, you got to be, on the upper 10% of how people dress, and that doesn't mean dressing with a three-piece suit. It could be depending on what we're dressing for, right? That's especially important for women probably, but it's also important for men. It's about getting attention, right? Because if we don't get attention, then we don't get noticed. So it's that simple, I guess. And he does this by putting himself out there and getting noticed. He keeps throwing these different sacred cows in front of his opponents, right? While he's saying what is to his opponents is completely outrageous, but what to him is normal stuff. Is inside his Overton window. It's way outside theirs. So some of his sacred cows that they throw at him is, oh, you call me a Nazi? Well, I actually happen to be a Jew. So Milo's a Jew when it's convenient, and apparently he's a Catholic when it's convenient. And of course he's gay. So if he's homophobic, well, he's actually gay. And then when they call him racist, he gets married to a black guy. So, well, how can he be racist if he's married to a black guy? And he throws it in their face, and he uses terms like, because he's throwing all these sacred cows in front of them, they have a hard time nailing him down using a term like dangerous faggot, for example, right? So I would say that, he is an example of an attention whore. No question about it. He's pulling out all the stops and throwing them in there. And most people aren't going to go that far, right? He does, and it seems to work for him. I think what we can learn from him is our version. That's his version of being outrageous. What's our version of being outrageously controversial to the point of being beneficial, not getting killed in the process? And, so he not only does he put all these labels on himself as a Jew, as a Catholic, as a gay, as a married a black guy, as a Greek, and therefore he's not even white. If he's a Greek and he's a Jew, like sometimes, especially Jews, they'll say, well, I'm not white, I'm a Jew. What? It's just, it's those sacred cows, right? And he also continuously walks into these, you might call them dens of iniquity. I mean, these universities, and gives. Why walk to a university and give a presentation? Unless you want to be controversial. Like if you're right wing and you want to get in a big fight and things lit on fire by radical leftists and so on, go to university, right? He does that. He walks into that. Does anybody think it was just an accident that he happened to walk into a restaurant full of chanting socialists with a reservation to sit down? I mean, come on, and he has his reporter with him, so then he gets on Fox News and everything else and gets on the talk shows. It's all stage stuff. I mean, he didn't stage the socialists. He just found out they were there and he walked in. Almost guaranteed. This is Milo. And I think we can learn if people who, whatever it is that we're advertising, if we can, I wouldn't, who am I to say, but I wouldn't recommend for everybody to do this. And most people wouldn't recommend that they themselves do it. But for what he's doing, it's working. Like he's just outside of the window. He's pushing as many buttons as he can that he can get away with. And I think we can learn from Milo about how it is that we dress, how it is that we present ourselves, who it is we interact with, how it is that we get buzz going for ourselves by being controversial enough, but not controversial enough to piss off our customers or our fans or whatever. I think we can, there's an old saying, any news is good news. And I don't believe that, because some news, you don't want to be caught up in some really, really crazy stuff. I mean, some people, go ahead and do criminal activity or whatever, and get attention, but that's not good attention. He's staying inside a certain window, but he's pushing buttons, and it's his fans like it, and his detractors don't, which is what his fans like, kind of thing. So something to be learned there, I think. Steve here again, great chatting. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. Please comment in the box below. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.